Welcome to the Good Old Fashion Masonic Podcast, where we discuss Masonic-related topics while drinking an old fashioned. I'm Brian.
And I'm Russ.
So, Russ, I always like to start off a podcast with asking you a question.
That makes me uncomfortable.
And that you have no idea what's coming.
No.
So, again, I understand that this creates some anxiety for you, but I'm gonna take it a little easy on you this time.
Okay.
All right, so we both have kids.
Yes, we do.
At times, they impress you.
Yes.
And at times, our kids let us down.
That's fair.
Parents at times also have favorite kids. Okay? That said, who is your favorite singer, group, and band of all time? So who's your favorite group, singer, or band of all time?
Well, I'm not really that much into music, and so I would have to say, ZZ Top.
ZZ Top. You know, I didn't really think about this question before, but it would be something in the 80s rock era.
Yeah.
Beatles are good. Prince, Michael Jackson, there's a lot of good entertainers out there, but what is your favorite group, band, or singer of all time? So we've got a big guest today. So let us know who we have on today.
Today we have Brother Bart Ogden.
So we've known Bart for some time.
A long time.
He's kind of sneaky fun.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this kind of sinister grin, so don't mistake that for kindness. Don't just always be on your toes. So let's go grab a cocktail, and we'll come back with Bart.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back. So we have Bart. So welcome, Bart, to the podcast.
Thanks.
So on this podcast, we'd like to know more about the man and not just the Mason. So tell us, who is Bart Ogden? Tell us your story.
Well, I'm from a small town in south central Kansas, Attica, Kansas, a town of about 600, and that's probably on Thanksgiving or Mother's Day when everybody's home visiting. I grew up in that town my entire life. Moved to Wichita in around mid 80s. I went to college at Wichita State. Got a degree in radio, TV, film with a double minor in business management and business administration. Helped put myself through college by doing chimney sweeping. And grew up in a roofing family. So I did roofing when I was growing up. In fact, I was probably the earliest I was on a job site I was probably around, I'm going to say 8 or 9, which can't do that anymore because of OSHA regulations. But my job at that point was going around the job site and picking up shingle scraps in a bucket. And I got paid so much per bucket of shingle scraps that I would pick up. That grew into commercial roofing, where I ended up doing the old style hot roofing where we mopped hot asphalt on roofs. Then that moved into selling roofing and products while I was going to college at Wichita State. Went to Wichita State from 1983 to 1988, was on the 5-year plan, and it was a great time. It was the 80s, best decade ever. And had a couple small scholarships. Had a lot of help from my mom and dad to get through college, as well as worked 2 to 3 different jobs. Sometimes would work all night, get up, go to school in the morning, and then sleep in the afternoon and go back and hit it again that night. The chimney sweeping has morphed into what it started out as, which was just a part-time deal. I started out August 15th of 1979 in Attica. We had a chimney fire the winter before, so that would have been
at your home.
At our home.
Okay.
And we had, that would have been the winter of 78, 79. And I still remember the orange fireplace in the front room catching on fire. And the orange porcelain pipe just glowed cherry red. My dad was on the volunteer fire department at that time. So he ran across the street to his pickup, got a ladder off the pickup, came back over to the house, put the ladder up, and put a little bit of water with a hose on down the fireplace, put it out. Bought an 8-inch brush kit from Sears and Roebuck at that time, which we still have that brush kit back in the corner of the shop. I've saved it all these years. And then the following August 15th of 1979, Mrs. Clifford Robinson, who was the bank president's wife there in Attica, Dad did all their roofing work for their business properties, the bank, their house, everything. She called up and asked Dad if he knew anyone that swept chimneys. And Dad looks at the phone, looks at me, and says, "Yes, I do, Mrs. Robinson," and he'll be right up. He hung up the phone, told me to get in the pickup, go down to the shop and pick up that brush kit and a shop vac. And I just looked at him and said, "Okay, what am I doing?" He said, "You're going to go clean her chimney." Went up there and went up there with a round brush, got up on the roof and found out it was a square chimney. So swept that the best I could. Went down below, cleaned out basically nothing because I didn't realize that it was all trapped behind there. So I'd, at that time, pretty much left a bigger fire hazard than she started with. Right. Left there and finished up there, and she said, "Well, how much will that be?" And I said, "Well, I suppose $40 would cover it." And think about that, in 1979, $40 cash. I'm 14 years old.
That's real money.
That's a
money.
lot of money. And I had a 1967 Mustang that definitely needed high performance parts, a graphic equalizer, and a power booster. So that funded part of that venture.
Well, that moved you all the way up into Home Safe.
That did.
Where you're at today.
Started from that little thing now. Now we run a multi-truck operation with a 3,000 square foot showroom here in Wichita. We work as far away regularly as Kansas City, which is 2.5 hours northeast of us. We work as far west as Lewis, Mullinville, Greensburg, as far south as Oklahoma City, and as far east as the Missouri line with all truck coverage.
Wow.
Here's to your dad for just saying, "Bart, go get her done."
Go get her done.
Yep.
So, we're not going to make you buy a dress or any diamonds. So as we kind of finish out Bart the man, there behind all good men, there's a lady. So I'm saving you a dress and some diamonds.
So married the lovely Lisa, spelled with an E, by the way. In 1997, we celebrated our 25th anniversary this year. Absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me.
And what'd you celebrate?
Where did we celebrate?
Yes.
We went to Hawaii this year.
All right.
So,
I knew that.
And really the first real vacation we'd ever taken. I mean, we've gone places over the years that happened to be during our anniversary time, but always combine it with business trips or something like that. And it's funny because Lisa grew up in a plumbing family. So we kind of grew up in the same self-employed households, 60 miles apart. So close, and as a matter of fact, that when I went to the first Sunday family dinner, that when Betty, Lisa's mom, brought the potato salad bowl out, I just started staring at it. And Lisa said, "What's wrong?" I said, "It's the same bowl my mom used, the same Tupperware bowl, the same color, and it was basically the same recipe of potato salad."
That's great.
So I think that's one reason that we get along so well today. She's involved heavily in the business. She's the co-owner of the corporation as well. So that's kind of leads us up to today anyway.
Nice.
So potato salad.
Potato salad.
Potato salad.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, now that we know a little bit more about the man, so let's talk about your Masonic journey and sort of from the beginning to today and what you're actually doing now in Masonry. So just start from the first and tell us about it.
So in 2000, this goes back to chimneys again. In 2000, we were headed for a chimney convention, and I'm not for sure even where it was now. It was somewhere up in Indiana or Cincinnati or somewhere, but we picked up my good friend of many, many years, Steve Miles, from Salina Lodge 60. And he's also in the chimney industry, and we picked him up and he rode to the convention with us. So we literally pick him up in an F-250. Lisa gets in the back, Steve's in the passenger seat, and as soon as we get out on I-70, I said, "So Steve, what's this masonry thing you do anyway?" So by the time we went all the way to the convention and all the way back, I basically had kind of an idea of what masonry was about, and ended up, he was the one that suggested that I petition Albert Pike Lodge, which almost didn't happen. I called the lodge. I think I contacted them either 3 or 4 times. And the last time I contacted him, because nobody would get back with me. And I said, if they don't get back with me, I'm done. I'm moving on.
Get it.
And then I got the phone call. And that's how kind of I got into masonry at that point.
So you became a Master Mason in what year?
2000.
From there you went where?
Let's see, actually, let me take that. Yeah, it was 2000. Spring of 2000, Worshipful John Garrison was the master that year, and I was one of the first 3 Master Masons raised in the year 2000. From there, I joined Midian Shrine in the fall of 2000.
No consistory.
I did go through the consistory, but it was after the shrine.
Okay, so that was around the time that prerequisite went away. Understood.
Yeah, but I did go through, so I'm also a member of the Wichita Consistory as well as a 32nd degree Mason.
So you go from there. So we're going to hop around a little bit. So let's go back to Blue Lodge. You were a chaplain at Albert Pike Lodge. Who put you on as chaplain?
I don't remember.
I
was also a Tyler.
I
almost cut my thumb off.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
So you were chaplain in 2004. Okay.
I did.
You did?
Yes. Somebody brought a samurai sword. They didn't tell me it was sharp.
So
I literally almost cut my thumb off.
You were chaplain in 2004.
Probably the best looking master of all time.
Or in the top 2.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's your fault.
It is my fault.
Okay.
So he put you on as chaplain. You can tell there's no prep work ahead of time. Which this just
That's a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. So, would you like to, or do you have any desire to do more work in the Blue Lodge?
Potentially, but time is the big deal that's catching up with me at this point.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of other stuff that I really have got on the front burners of things, but I've always enjoyed being in the background, doing committee work in the Blue Lodge setting. My home was I found my home to be in the shrine.
Yep. So at the shrine, who put you on as OG?
That would have been Illustrious Sir Terry Shrant.
Also has some ties to that part of the world. He's from the Harper Anthony area.
He is from Harper, Kansas. Yep. And I knew Terry as I was growing up. He owned an auto parts store down in Harper.
And in Medicine. He had one over in Medicine as well.
Interesting. So, of the elected positions that you held on the divan, which one did you like the least and why?
We asked Bob Bear this on a previous podcast, so it's going to be interesting how your answer.
And I think it caught us both off guard.
Which one it was?
It was fascinating.
I'm like the kid that went back for seconds at the high school lunchroom.
Okay.
I didn't dislike any position I was in. I mean, I just loved being involved all through that whole journey up to being potentate and beyond and helping out behind the scenes. I didn't have anything that I didn't
So
like.
maybe with Bob, it wasn't as much of a position as it was a task. He said he absolutely hated putting together the
liaison
report. He said because it's so much.
The liaison report. Yeah. I'd kind of suppressed that from my memory.
So, anybody going through at Midian, High Priest and Prophet, the liaison report.
Yeah.
That thing is a beast.
So, since you came off the line as potentate, so after you, what past potentate has impressed you the most?
Boy, there's some real talent there. There were some guys that got some pretty extraordinary stuff done. I think probably the guy that had the biggest presence in the room was probably Illustrious Sir Dave Byerly. Tremendous business leader, and brought that right through Midian. Illustrious Sir Jeff Souder, who went on to do the biggest thing you can do in the shrine, be an imperial potentate. Very impressive there. Both of those guys specifically could build teams and get stuff accomplished. They knew how to put teams and sub-teams together to get over the finish line. So probably those two come to mind at first, yeah.
So we've talked about potentates. Let's talk about new Masons, new Shriners. Anybody out there that sort of has impressed you and sort of you're keeping an eye on and you want to see be...
Of the newer guys.
Of the newer guys.
We're all old guys.
Yeah. Of the new guys recently in the last couple of years. Anybody that just stands out to you?
There's several of them that have come through over the past several years. I've kind of been not as involved at Midian because I was involved on the international side of things, but... my brother-in-law, Richard Steele, who's recently been put on the line there at Midian. Jim Hallberg, very impressive guy, who's Joe Mason, but he knows how to get stuff done. And I think that's probably the thing that always impresses me the most is guys or gals that can put together people in teams to get stuff across the line.
We've been hearing Jim's name.
We have. He's scheduled to be on a podcast real soon.
Yeah, great.
So if you were potentate again, what would you do differently? One thing. What's the one thing? It's not that you have regrets or that you wish that you would have got accomplished that you didn't. What's the one thing?
Well, I would say I would do more of everything, but that's tough to do because we pretty much burnt the candle out at both ends and left nothing but ashes. I think, to me, the thing that was somewhat out of my control was membership. We did all right, but I think every potentate that's ever been sitting in that chair has always wished they could have done more for membership.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
I'm going to follow up with membership. There is no magic bullet with membership, but give us thoughts. What do we need to be doing different?
Well, today's people aren't nearly as much of a joining society to join things, which is really unfortunate. If we can figure out some way to get people back involved with seeing the fun side of Masonry, Shrine is kind of the playground of Masonry. I don't see as far as people joining things, there's not the attraction that there was back in the 40s and 50s of going to lodge.
It's a competition for time too now.
It is, because it's a different time in the fact that in the palm of our hand we hold the world, to where back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s,
that was your social group. That was your social network. That was the original social network.
Yeah. And one thing to remember too is, we still do have to have numbers move through. I've heard the discussion of quality versus quantity. Mm-hmm. But, it used to be people would go to a job and they would stay at that job until they retired. Well, now people change every 2, 3, 4 years. It's kind of like the unsubscribed theory. There's not as many lifers as there was before, and people just unsubscribe because something else catches their attention. And part of that is because, again, you have the world in the palm of your hand,
right,
with that electronic device, and people didn't know what was available.
Right.
Years ago, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah. We kind of talked about that a little bit on season 1, episode 1 with Mike Ward. He talked about volunteers. They're essentially waiting with their bags packed just for something to annoy them so they can leave. So you talked a little bit about Richard Steele. So you've got 2 brother-in-laws that are Masons and Shriners and a father. Tell me about that.
Well, it sounds kind of like a hillbilly deal, doesn't it? He's my dad. He's also my brother. He's my brother, but he's also a other brother, and it's a different deal. I think the thing that's the coolest about that is we all have that common thread of the fraternity as well as the philanthropy of this because of Shriners Children's. There's just, to me, that holds a pretty special place in my heart. And that's just guys that have a common interest, getting together, still having a great time. There used to be a kind of a motto that Shrine had of having fun and helping kids. Today, that's still what it is, what it's all about to me.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
There's a brotherhood into the fraternity.
So, got a follow-up question before the most important question of the podcast. If you had one superpower, just a superpower, it doesn't have to be real, what would it be and why?
A superpower.
A superpower. I mean, if it's not real, you can make up what the superpower would be. So, a lot of people, I could fly or invisible, stuff on. What would you want it to be and why? Remember, we're not editing out any answers, so just be careful with that.
I would say 20 years ago it would have been different, but today I think it would be, and this would be a blessing and a curse, would be knowing what's really going on in people's heads. Because it's, with my technicians at Home Safe, what I tell them all the time is you don't know what's happening when you open that door. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's happening in somebody's life. Yeah. But that could be a pretty bizarre deal too, because there's a lot of stuff going on in people's heads. But just being able, I think that the superpower would be being able to understand people better.
Fair. All right. The most important question of the podcast.
Always.
Before you, and on the screen, you'll see 4 things. Now, Bart, I know you like sweets. Okay? One must go forever. So between ice cream, whether it's in the scoop, a cup, or a cone, doesn't matter. Pie, any type, blueberry, strawberry, apple, pumpkin, whatever. Cake of any kind, or brownies cooked in Kansas, no place else. Of the 4 of those options, one has to go forever like it was never invented. Which one is it and why?
Do the brownies have nuts in them?
Do you want them to have nuts in them?
I hate them.
Okay, so there are no nuts in the brownie, so it just made it. So now it just made it tougher. These are nutless brownies.
I would say cake.
Cake. Russ, which one would you say?
Mine's
easy. I don't like sweets at all, but mine's easy.
I would say cake.
I'd say cake. Yeah. Cake's got to go.
Yeah.
Cake's got to go. So, thank you all for watching the Good Old Fashion Masonic Podcast with Illustrious Sir Bart Ogden, and stay tuned for next episodes. Cheers.
Cheers.